Okay. Good morning, everybody. So I am standing here before many of you for the third time, and I'd hope to say at this point that I am known to you. And for those new in the room, I would like to take a chance to introduce myself. I am from rural Wicklow. I have a background in food innovation and food education. I've worked in business growth in farmhouse cheese, communications, for Irish heritage seed banks and tree nurseries, as well as food education programs for schools, businesses, and households. I have direct experience with food startups and started my own business in 2023. I am not currently farming, but open to propositions, especially value-added. So the title of my topic is Unlocking Ireland's Agri-food Edge through Strategic Collaboration. Put bluntly, enhancing our business, our brand, and our well-being through working better together. And working together is a skill. It's hard to work with people you know and understand, never mind people you don't know and understand. You'd think a good handful of crises would help us to get our act in gear, and crises at the moment we have plenty. I don't need to go into them, but biodiversity is on the down, emissions is on the up, inputs are getting more and more expensive, and the market is more and more uncertain. And yet, we seem to be able to work together less and less. At least this is what it seems like when you pick up the paper or look at your phone. Don't get me wrong, disagreement is important. Conflict is important. But during my Nuffield travels, I learned that there were two kinds of conflict. Good conflict, productive conflict, that got you from A to B, where you could work with people you didn't necessarily fully agree with, but that you were working towards the same goal. And high conflict, where there was an us versus them mentality, very difficult to work across the room, and very unproductive, hard to move forward and hard to work together. So, when we move from good conflict to high conflict, and the person who disagrees with you is no longer a reasonable human but the enemy, we risk not making progress, but instead moving further away from each other and into, frankly, an economic, environmental, and social mess. But is this really true? Are we in a period of high conflict? Are we really that bad at working with people we don't fully see eye to eye with? And so what? In my Nuffield, I wanted to find examples of farms, farm organizations, whole regions that were bypassing us versus them thinking and setting up alliances, collaborations, and working groups who want to work together on the difficult challenge of truly sustainable farming, not because they were being told to do so, but because it made the most business sense and felt good. And why did I want to do this? Well, it's clear that agricultural production depends on a healthy environment. We all know this. And I am passionate that we use all the tools at our disposal to support today's and tomorrow's farmers, foresters, and land users. How did I do it? So here we have Nuffield in numbers. 5 continents, 8 countries, 70 farms, 22 interviews, 48 rooms, 80 trees planted, thank you Niall, and 1 sunburn. So what did I find? First, I want to introduce you to some of the farmers that I met during my travels, whose operations demonstrate that production and environmental health can be one and the same. I call these the expert innovators. I'd like to introduce you to Michael Taylor and his dad, Mr. Taylor. Michael is a 6th-generation superfine merino wool farmer, 630 hectares in New South Wales. He experienced 3 years of successive drought and had to cut his herd in half. In response, he has an ambition to reforest his land for 30% for drought measures and for animal health. Next, Ben Pashelk was a first-generation Wagyu beef farmer, also in New South Wales, who was reducing fertilizer input costs by generating fertilizer on farm through beneficial microbes. Then we have Bertel in Denmark, a 15th-generation Danish pig farmer who transitioned from intensive to extensive, and now has a poplar pig brand, so that's the trees, and a rare pigs genetic company. So for all of these people, environmental health was an added bonus to a strong business model. Now I want to give some wider examples. During my Nuffield travels, I had the opportunity to be in Denmark while the Green Tripartite was being negotiated in government. This is a challenging suite of agriculture and land use regulations that required compromise on all sides. Nature organizations, agricultural organizations, and was being led by the whole of government. At the time we were visiting, our hosts, who were farming and representing farming voices, were uneasy about the outcome, but had chosen to engage with the process rather than boycott it so they could have a seat at the table. Because of this, and because they made sure their voices were heard, the measures agreed are the best outcome for farming, and more importantly, are appropriate to the business realities of farming. It is agri-environmental regulation accepted by all so far, and has not had the same reactions as, say, the Netherlands. Things move fast. In the United States, we saw real-time good conflict between two friends, one a farmer, the other a lobbyist, who vote different ways but still maintain their friendship. And in 2024, a recently established National Climate, Agriculture, Food, Climate and Agriculture Alliance successfully made sure that agriculture was included in national climate grants, securing a portion of $6 billion for agricultural sustainability projects ranging from energy to soil health. In Brussels, I spoke with policymakers in agriculture and the environment about the need for professionals with mixed profiles, experience in agribusiness and environmental science. This idea was supported across the board from Copa Cogeca, the lead farmer representative organization and a leading environmental think tank. Everyone agrees that we need more mixed professional profiles. In France, I learned about the extensive year-long consultation process carried out by France's lead cooperative umbrella body to include youth, give them agency, and make sure the body's lobby position accurately reflects their future's members' hopes, dreams, and needs. So before I move on to my tips, I want to bring in some of the farmers that I met. I can't exclude my trip to Japan, where I met Shota Morigami, Japan's first Nuffield scholar, who is farming green onions in Kyoto. And I want to bring him as an example of expert negotiator. He has 20 pockets of land, each around 7 hectares, which means that he has a huge amount of neighbors. So I would classify him as an expert negotiator because he has to deal with at least 20 different neighbors. We also had the chance to go to North California, which, like a huge amount of Australia, one of the other places we visited, are dealing with a limited amount of water resources. We were kindly hosted by Stephanie Bolton at the Lodi Winery, and then the picture on the right there is myself holding the water code. This is the body of law managing water resources, and they say that if you are a farmer's son or daughter and you don't want to go into farming, you might as well become a water lawyer. Bringing it back home, we have a long history of successfully negotiating conflict, and I want to point out some areas in which it is valuable to work across the aisle. We've talked, and most of the discussion is on emissions, but I want to point out funding for nature restoration. I want to point out that public food should be Irish food. It might be a topic that you've come across recently in the news, but it is an area that we all agree on, that all of our food in schools, prisons, and hospitals should be coming from Irish food, and that a clean and healthy environment aids agricultural production. Finally, I want to provide 5 tips. When you want to forge that alliance, make that working group, avoid us versus them thinking and get things done. My first tip is focus on the 60%. When working with people you don't normally work with, focus on the 60% you agree with. You don't have to agree 100% in order to do great work together. We saw this in Denmark, and we saw this in the Food, Agriculture, and Climate Agreement. My second tip, avoid conflict entrepreneurs. Conflict entrepreneurs benefit from an us versus them approach. Put them in charge and the conflict will never end. It's supposed to. Good conflict ends. So instead, seek out people who see the bigger picture and can imagine shared wins together. My third tip, avoid silos. Silos are only good for grain storage, not for complex policy making or innovating clever solutions to complicated challenges. Ways to break them down: professional recognition for those brave people who walk across the aisle, and I really would like to call out Nuffield as an example of that. Also invest in places where you can meet people you don't necessarily agree with in a safe and respectable way. I'd like to call out the Irish Youth Food Forum and the Water Forum as examples of this. And I also want to give a big shout out to Pippa Jones, who supplied the picture for this in New South Wales, where she very adequately showed that silos, even though they're separate, can work together with this silo mural. Invest in mixed professional profiles. It's clear we agree in Ireland, in Brussels, that this is a necessity. And finally, provide training for good conflict. This doesn't just happen. We should be training for debate in primary school, secondary school, agricultural college. Teach us how to reach a compromise and an agreement that everybody is happy with and that everybody can work with. I want to leave you with this quote from my lead interviewee with the Food, Agricultural and Climate Alliance. "It is easier to divide and point your finger. You feel good about it, but you don't get anything done." Sometimes you have to do something uncomfortable to be able to move forward and be successful. I would like to thank my sponsors for this chance to go all around the world asking this tricky question. It has truly been the experience of a lifetime. I would like to thank more thanks later, and if you are interested in this topic and want to see the findings of my research in more detail, please check the Nuffield website. Thank you very much.